Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here, Smart Business Moves. Got Liz out on the West Coast. Liz, you doing okay today?
Pretty good so far.
You guys are in for a treat today. We're going to learn a little bit about science. We're going to learn a little bit about some of the more cutting edge technologies that are out there that for cleaning and sanitizing indoor living space, especially in a COVID-19 world, particularly relevant. Marty Paris, he is CEO of Annihilare, and he'll tell you a little bit more about his business, but they rock. Hey, Marty, how are you today?
Very good. Tom, thanks for having me. Liz, nice to meet you. Hope you have good weather out there on the West Coast today.
We sure do, Marty. It's bearable here. Yesterday it was so hot. We were all like just dying, melting. But Today we're doing really, really well.
Well,
what does hot mean?
We stay hot here all the time anyway.
What does hot mean, Liz?
So yesterday it was 96 degrees here.
Wow.
It was really hot. And we don't have air conditioning in a lot of homes here. So it was really hot. Today it's 87. And so that's still a little on the toasty side for us. But we're making it through.
You guys don't have much humidity though, do you?
No.
See, that must make that's the fun part.
Massive.
Yeah, it's not bad here. It really is nice. And it's beautiful too. It looks like Charleston, blue skies and
Well, before we get too deep into our discussion today, we just want to kind of go over what we're going to be doing for the balance of the week. Marty's going to be with us today, and we're going to jump in that in a minute. Kurt Kempton is going to be back with us tomorrow. And what are we going to be talking about with Kurt, Liz?
So we didn't get a chance to go through everything with Kurt. I don't know that 10 calls with him would get us through everything. But tomorrow we're going to be talking about 3 things that you can do right now to increase your close rate and to also increase your ticket price. So your job price, how much you're charging per job. So he's got some tips and tricks for us to make us more money. You know, we all like that.
Yeah,
Sarah, 118. Just, gosh, go swimming. That's all I can think. And
That's either Phoenix or Vegas.
Yeah, that's Phoenix. That's Scottsdale.
Yeah, she's hot over there.
That's
darn.
You know, that's as they say, it's dry heat though. So
I don't care how dry it is. 118. That's just too hot. It's just too hot.
And we're going to be following Kurt up on Wednesday with Ken Carfagno. And I guess we had Kurt and Ken both on last week, and we kind of just never really got to. We had more to talk about than what we had time to cover, so they were available. So we're going to finish the discussion this week.
Yeah, I think it's great. Do you have a hint for our on the spot guest, Tom? Like how I did that? You got that? It's tricky, right?
Yeah, that is. That's awesome. I was hoping you could help me with that, Liz.
Gosh, you know, my hints are never as good as yours, Tom. I wouldn't want to steal your thunder there.
Maybe we'll just wait and you can give a hint.
We're just gonna tell everybody who it is. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, we'll deal later.
Yeah, I can't wait to find out.
Yeah, me too.
Marty, we have on Thursdays, we do a Q&A session called On the Spot that we get questions in from our audience, and Liz, myself, and a secret guest each get 1 minute apiece to answer their questions. And we have a clock like they use on TED Talks. It kind of counts down for the 60 seconds. And if you're not done in 60 seconds, the screen turns red and you have to be quiet. At least you're supposed to.
You're supposed to be quiet, yeah.
So that lends itself to very quick speaking, I guess.
You need to get to the point.
Right.
Yeah. And some of us are better than others at doing it. So, I wish I could say I was one of the ones that's good at it, but I'm not. I usually take every single last second of my 60 seconds. I'm trying to pull up our page.
Okay.
on here so I can respond. I see we got a few people on here.
Well,
I thought it wasn't going to be secret anymore. Yeah.
well, it's secret. At the moment, it's still secret.
Yes, it is.
Marty, while Liz is pulling her screen up there, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the business you're in and a little bit more about what that business is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a technology guy, have been for a long time. Was living in Texas in the 90s, and I actually I moved back around the late 2010, the 09, 010 or 10, and we were working on kiosk technology. And what we did is we had facial recognition technology we used to pitch ads on kiosks. And a guy came in my office one morning on a Monday, and they were using hypochlorous acid in the fracking business. And I knew this guy. He was pretty big in the business, and we'd partnered on some other things. So when he explained to me about the hard surface testing, I was very intrigued by it. They were literally the first company to go to the EPA and to determine that this would need to be registered as a pesticide. So it was a long time ago. And when I found out about it, I really got passionate about it. So I started thinking, this is something that works like bleach, but it's a neutral pH, and it's not toxic, and it's the best thing on the planet. It's what our white blood cells make in our bodies. So it's very effective. The only role it has in life is to kill pathogens and then go away. I mean, basically it's salt and water. So there's nothing that harms the environment. So I was like, well, what's the downside? And they said the shelf life is not the same. So you really can't put it in a warehouse. So I started working on a technology piece. I filed the patent in 2013. Patent was issued in 2016. That evolved into something called the Annihilare system, which was an on-site generation system that actually would track the bottles to make sure they were being used in a timely fashion. So I've been working with this product a long time. We've got the machines are smaller. The shelf lives are better now. And I got in it basically as a technology, play. But it was, once I found out how effective this would be, I mean, it's like I had to be all in. And I've been doing it ever since. So I try to explain to people, we're kind of like Uber in a way. Like chemicals are like the yellow cabs of the world, and we're like the Uber because we're not really a chemical company, we're a technology company, but we bring you something to clean with that would compete with any chemical that you would use. It's like, Uber is the largest transportation company, doesn't own one car. We're a large player in the chemical business, but we don't make chemicals. So it's very disruptive, if you will. I can tell you early on in my career, I was calling on hospitals, 7-8 years ago, and they looked at me like I was crazy. It's like, I don't understand this. It doesn't make any sense. I see the efficacy, but how is it possible, and why have I never heard of this before? And it was disappointing in some ways, because I thought, man, people are going to grab onto this because it's so powerful and effective, and it didn't happen that way. Over the years, there have been some. The industry's had somewhat of a black eye because there's been, the magic shock sticks and the brew pots and things that really didn't work as well on a commercial level. And we all got kind of lumped into that kind of a product where, when I really got involved, I wanted to make this brand product that would compete right along with the Clorox products, the Ecolab products, and the Diversity products, because why wouldn't it? So that's kind of how we approached it. And it's been a fun ride. And I can tell you that since COVID has hit, I mean, it's like, everything's come to the forefront, because here's the thing, and I think all the viewers know this, is with this new situation that you're going to have to clean spaces and places more often around people and between classes. And it's like, moms out there and people are out there saying, well, what in the world are we going to use? And then hypochlorous, the electrostatics come out, and it's like, well, what am I going to spray in this darn thing? And that's, so really it's a really exciting time. One of the initial nursing homes that we worked with, we took every product that they were buying from Ecolab, I think it was, and we tested them all. We looked at the SDSs, and what we found out is a lot of the products were the same, variations, different price, and this product really eliminated everything they were using in this particular nursing home in North Carolina with the two products that our machine generates. So he's looking at the bottle. It's funny, and he goes, "There's no skull and crossbones on this bottle." And I said, "Yeah." I said, he goes, that's a leap you have to make in your mind, because you think it's got to be really bad if it's going to kill germs, and if you kill germs naturally, that's not the case. And it's funny. He said, "I'm going to give you your tagline," and he said, "You need to say Annihilare, we kill everything but your grandmother. And I'm like, that's awesome. So it's been a fun ride. We've got to meet some great folks. We're working with a lot of schools. Their schools are nervous. Universities are trying to get open back up. Here's the thing, and I want everyone to be encouraged that these things come and go. We had the swine flu, we had SARS, COVID before, but I think what's different this time is the level of awareness and people really digging in to find a better way. And I think if nothing else, and I talk to anybody that's moving towards sustainable. We work with a lot of the Maid Brigade folks out there, and I tell them, listen, I say, if you're moving towards hypochlorous and you're moving into sustainable, you're moving in the right direction. Lead paint was a good idea at some point, and they realized it wasn't so good. Asbestos was good. That's not so good. I mean, we're getting to a point now to where it's time for change, and it's just adopting new technologies that seem foreign, but it's going to change the game on everything. We get calls from dentists in California all the time, in your neck of the woods, Liz, and they hear about it from the dental associations. They're saying, you need to be using this product. I mean, it's crazy. I heard from a colleague yesterday, they're inhaling this product in China. It's actually helping with it in their lungs, and it's crazy stuff. So what excites us is the amount of research that's probably going to go into this product because of COVID. And we're gonna keep digging and keep working on it, making these things better and easier to use. That's our goal.
So one of the things that you said, Marty, was that you were talking about testing. Can you talk a little bit about the testing, what kind of testing, and what types of products you were testing? And the reason I'm asking that is I'm sure that, like your customers, a lot of the people that are going to be watching this Facebook Live are of the same mindset. It's like, yeah, okay, that's good in theory, but I really want something that's going to kill the germs. Like, I know that it theoretically kills the germs, but I want something that's really going to kill the germs.
Yeah. So really, the best way, I mean, the go-to for that always is the EPA registration. There is test data for on-site generation as well. But we make a ready-to-use product in the bottle that's EPA registered. So we have a registration on our formula. Mm-hmm. So we're on the list N for COVID. Obviously, we're on the list K for C. diff. So the data is there as far as what it kills. And one thing, we do sell ready-to-use product. One thing that happens is they'll take our label and they'll put the SDS next to it, and they say these don't match. It's like, he goes, you've got the same kill claims the Calicide has, but your zeros on top of the SDS. How is that possible? So the data is definitely there. When you go to on-site generation, which a lot of folks are doing, you actually use the third-party GLP data, which we provide. But that's exactly, it's under the FIFRA rules of the EPA, and a pesticide producing machine. It would go on site, would be a similar formulation, and it would actually have the test data with the machine. So the fluid has been fully vetted, I say, and has been.
You lost me, Marty.
What's that?
You lost me about 2 minutes ago. I'm paying really close attention. I think I'm getting it. Yeah, no, it's gone.
No, and I talk. I spent 3 years in New York. I talk really fast now. I never got over that. So where did I lose?
Where do we need to flesh out, Liz? What point?
Okay, so you were talking about the different products, and then you used a couple of terms that I wasn't familiar with. I was like, oh, losing me.
Yes.
G. What'd you say?
FIFRA?
Well, no. FIFRA is the rule that pesticide producing machines are under with the EPA. So there's an EPA established number on the machine itself, and then you've got testing data that goes with that. GLP it's a lab.
GLP.
Yeah, it's a lab. It's an approved lab, EPA approved lab that does testing on pathogens.
Okay.
So for example, for our ready-to-use product, which is 500 parts per million hypochlorous acid, we actually, since we didn't have a surrogate for COVID, we actually use rhinovirus. And if you look at the Spalding classification, this sounds like boring stuff, but the Spalding classification is very important for understanding how pathogens are killed.
Stop. Yeah. What's the Spalding classification?
Spalding classification basically classifies pathogens and germs on the type that they are. So at the very bottom is yeast. Yeast is easy to kill. Your envelope viruses are next, and that's where your flus and your COVIDs are in. Okay. When you test a ready-to-use product for list in for COVID, they actually go to the non-envelope virus, which is actually harder to kill. We use rhinovirus for our surrogate. So the testing is in. as far as is what needs to be done. I know that there will be some testing on COVID directly, but the EPA puts together that list in for the reason. So they say these are effective against COVID because anybody on that list has killed something that's actually higher on the Spalding classification.
I gotcha. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, just so you know, at the very top of the Spalding is C. diff, which is spores. Spores are really much harder to kill, and that's what the list K is for. So I know it's boring, but it's important to understand the chemistry and science behind it to understand.
I actually don't find it boring.
Yeah,
I find it really interesting.
You know, you want to be confident with what you're using, and again, we tell people, listen. So between classrooms, you can put a bottle of this on the kid's desk, give them a dry wipe, and let them wipe the desk down, he or she. I mean, that's how safe hypochlorous acid is. So keep that in mind that it can be used more often. It can be used around people. It doesn't create any VOCs or indoor air quality issues at all, especially if you're doing electrostatic applications. So
because the alternative, you're replacing primarily alcohol-based, sanitizers, right?
Well, sanitizer is a little different. When you think alcohol-based sanitizer, you're thinking more about hand sanitizers.
Well,
yeah, and that's an FDA thing. Yeah. So if you spray hospital-grade disinfectant on your hands, is it going to clean them? Of course it will, but it's not packaged to be a hand sanitizer like that. Okay. But understand the chemistry. But this is the important part, I think, and it gets into a little bit of chemistry. But when bleach is the go-to, when you think about Ebola in Georgia several years back, and if you Google school systems that are closing down because of flu outbreaks, they go in there with bleach, they clean everything up, and they let the building air out, and they put people back in it. So I ask a list of questions. My first question is why is bleach the go-to in those situations? And they say, well, because it works better than everything else. So it's typically better than a quat. It's typically better than alcohol or peroxide. So then I say, well, let me tell you why bleach is effective, and you start talking about the chemistry behind it. So think about it this way. So when you take hypochlorite, which means salt, ite means salt, and when you dilute that down, whether you're diluting bleach or whether you're using a pre-diluted product in a bottle, you're creating chlorine gas when you put water in it, and the chlorine gas is where the hypochlorous acid is. So if you take bleach, and I can send you a link to a video that we actually did it because it really shows this in contrast. But when you take a bleach and you dilute it down and you will test strip it at 500 parts per million, it's a 13 pH. Which will bleach your clothes, burn your skin, burn your eyes. Because we take salt and water and we convert it directly into hypochlorous acid. We don't go through hypochlorite. We're 76% of our fluid is in the form of free chlorine, which is hypochlorous acid, which is actually stronger, but it's a neutral pH of 7. So that's the biggest difference of why. And so you say we're getting the same test as far as kill data, but it's much safer. How does that work? And that's how it works. It's the hypochlorous acid in bleach that's actually doing the killing. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. But we need that link. So Tom, make sure that you get that link from Marty. We'll put that in our resources because I think that'll be great for people to be able to see that. And
all we do, we have one of our guys. We literally dilute it. We test it. We showed the pH. It explains it. And then I think once people start saying, "Wait a minute, aha, I get this," it starts to make sense because it's like, well, how can it work like that but not be toxic? And it's all based upon the parts per million and the pH of the product.
Yeah, I think that'll be great for, and a lot of times just talking about something doesn't get the message, bringing the message home as strongly as being able to see it. So I love that. You said earlier that you had a story or an example about some schools or something, some tests or what?
Yeah, we've got a distributor up in Pennsylvania, Easy Design. They're doing the school buses up there because I think on the pre-chat we were talking about school buses and schools and what in the world they're going to do on those things. We actually did some testing with SEPTA in Philly with our product, and they went on some of the public buses. They used ATP testing, and they would do a testing before and after electrostatic application. As Tom and I spoke about on the pre-call as well, you really can't go in and clean a bus very well. You're going to have to remove the trash, wipe anything off that might be soil. But as far as what do you do at that point? So they're electrostatically applying the interiors of buses. After the ATP test was completed, it was less than 100. It was 3,800 before, less than 100 after. And that's basically active organisms. It's not always a perfect barometer because some of the things can not necessarily be bad. But if you've got that much living material on a seat, you know, a lot of that is going to be a germ or pathogen. So it's just showing that anything that's living on there, it's going to kill it, is what it boils down to.
And it's, you know, it's not necessarily as efficacious as removing soil, applying, and then wiping, but you don't, like you said, it's a bus, so there's just not enough time in the day to do that on all the touch points in a bus, and still get it out there on the road enough to, you know, make things work. And it's particularly complicated now that schools are opening and they're having to social distance. They aren't putting as many kids on buses as they used to, so they've got to make them safe, but they have to turn them around quickly too. There's really no time to clean them.
Absolutely, and it's the same thing with the airlines. We're doing some working with one of the big airlines, and it's like, you know, how are we going to handle this? We're going to have to do this between flights, and I said things are going to be different because of this. You know, I remind people all the time. It's kind of really a telling thing, but you know, I was living in New York on September 11th, and there was a curtain on the cockpit that morning. Now, I mean, things are going to be different because of this. And yes, you're going to be spraying more often. And the thing about hypochlorous acid is you can. I mean, we make a 360 sprayer actually that actually rotates 360. So you can put it in a classroom and you can let it run for 5 minutes and it literally will fly in the room. And honestly, we can't. A lot of units going to New York. I mean, New York and California for some reason, they tend to get things more quickly, not only with fashion but also chemicals. It's just the way it is. But no, they get it, they see it, and they're using it, and they're really confident about it. So we've done a lot of work, Liz, in California. We went into the Post Ranch Inn in Big Sur, and we're getting ready to go in at the Cavallo Inn in Sausalito. So what's happened out of that has been the tourism board. We're working with state of California, because we're thinking, you know, if you want to clean hotel rooms effectively and get people to come back, what's the best way to do it? And it's to use a disinfectant that you can actually use often without, you know, making your indoor air quality really bad. So those two states, we get a lot of traction because people just get it. So,
you know those little things that you put up that, like, periodically every 15 minutes they spray deodorizer or like the smelly stuff into there? Mm-hmm. I want those that are just like spraying disinfectant into there.
You could do that actually. In fact, we've had a lot of conversation. I mean, we've got I think it's a Maid Brigade franchise. I think it's in San Diego actually, but they've got a thing. They've got where you step on a flit switch and it missed it on your clothes when you go in and you go out. It's pretty interesting.
Wow, yeah, that's nice.
But I've actually seen that there is some things being developed where they're actually fogging tunnels in and out of like healthcare facilities with hypochlorous. So I think you're going to see that. We're working with a very large swine producer here in the United States, and they actually want to put the R360 sprayers in the ceiling to be able to automatically be set on a timer.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. That's not a crazy idea, believe it or not. I mean, it's certainly safe enough to do that, but you know, we're working a lot of those angles because, like I said, there's a lot of opportunity to really get creative with how to do things better with electrostatic, because you can do it that way.
So one more thing that you said about the hypochlorous is shelf life is shorter. So how does that kind of play in? How short?
Well, it depends on the method in which you make it, and I know there's some competitors out there that do 7 days. I think Orbio was 7. The brew tabs, it's quicker than that. If you dilute bleach down, it's a matter of days. Our product is shelf stable 30 days. The way that we do it, we put a date produced, and then you would test strip after that. But you're going to be well over 200 for months. We test it all the time. We are doing some additional shelf study testing as we speak, because it's really longer than that. The good thing about the folks using on-site generation is it doesn't matter. They're filling bottles when they need them. They're using their filling bottles. It never becomes an issue. When it becomes an issue is when you have to actually store product.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I think I was in a hospital in New York City. Literally, it was in March. It was the week before that they actually shut the city down, and we're in a meeting, and I'm with the chemical rep that actually brought me in. He's one of our distributors, and they looked at the guy and they said, when can we get disinfectant? They said 3 more weeks. I'm like, you don't have any disinfectant? They didn't. So one of the things that's changing, instead of being able to stockpile it, now if you can stockpile ready-to-use products that don't have a shelf life all day long. With hypochlorous, it does have that limitation, but if you make it on site, you don't worry about it anymore.
Right.
and they ended up purchasing they did 3 of our generators for that hospital. So it was a successful thing. But when you make it on site, if the folks doing the cleaning, whether they're doing Airbnbs or homes or offices, the good thing about on-site generation is they can equip their folks with 6 streams of different products that they can use to go out and clean with. So on-site generation is a good choice in most of those cases because you've got it. If you've got water and your lights are on, you've got disinfectant. So that's a good way to look at it.
And if you're in the process of using it, you can get like test strips for the free chlorine, and they're just
very simple.
Yeah, and you stick it in and match it up to the color. And I guess it depends where if you're sanitizing or disinfecting, depends upon how many parts per million of chlorine you need. But and these are not the ones that you use for your pool, because you need a lot more free chlorine to sanitize and disinfect than what you want in your swimming pool.
Yeah, it's called a high-level test strip. When we think about it, I mean, you imagine all the bacteria that goes into a pool. That's a great example. I always try to get there because hot tubs too. But if you imagine the amount of things that are in a pool, and you're swimming around in a pool, and it's in your eyes, it's in your mouth, the hypochlorous acid in that pool is 3%. 3%. 500 parts per million is much stronger, and it's no more harmful. So, and there's 50 parts per million, it's a great sanitizer. So
are you still with the hypochlorous acid? Are you still smelling the chlorine smell? Like I noticed that, like with vinyl oxide, brew tabs, you do smell the chlorine. It's pretty strong, and it feels kind of scary. I don't know. That smell just sounds like all the color is getting leached out of everything.
Well, it's funny because in our showroom we have people in all the time demonstrating our electrostatic applicators, our carts, and so our offices get sprayed, daily. I'm in there most of the time. I'll walk right through it, but at the end of the day, at 500 parts per million, to some people it can smell like a pool house. No more than that. But what most people describe it as, we did a church in Florida. I don't know how they found us, but they ended up rolling us down there, and they did a really nice video. I'm going to see if I can get a link to it, but they actually showed the process of disinfecting the campus, and they were asking people in the room that were doing the filming, and they said it smells like rain. And Tom, you mentioned Tersano. It's a naturally clean smell. It doesn't have the bite of the hypochlorite, which really is what becomes offensive. But I can't say that anybody that smells it at 500 is not going to think they smell something. But it's nothing that's offensive, at least to me or people that I know.
It's kind of like if you're next to a copy. If you're next to a copy machine and you're making a bunch of copies, that smell. That's ozone basically, and that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Which is better than remember the mimeograph when we were in school and they put them out. The first thing we'd smell. It's probably why people in our generation have a little screw loose up here because we had lead paint, we had asbestos insulation, and we're using mimeograph. Anyway, but anything natural smells like that. So.
I do like that smell too. I really like the reference to rain. I can't think of very many things that smell better than rain. It's like so pure smelling. So one of the things we talked about before we got started was about you're talking about looking at the SDS, because one of the reasons, like the big reason why this is such a big deal, is because of how safe it is, and that it's just safe for people to be breathing in, and because a lot of disinfectants are not necessarily safe. But how do you decide if they are? How do you decide if what you should put into your electrostatic sprayer? What if you don't have a way to generate, like I don't, hypochlorous acid? Then what should I be doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. There's a rule of thumb out there. I mean, whether using the Victory products, the handheld or e-mist, and there's some other that are coming out. Before you spray anything in that, you should look at the SDS. The CDC and EPA actually have coordinated. They actually made a list of things that have been banned because people were spraying things that are really bad. In fact, there was one airline in particular, and I won't mention the name, but they were spraying an alcohol-based disinfectant through an electrostatic sprayer, which is essentially a flamethrower. I mean, just one little spark there, and it could be crazy. But no, I just tell people, use your common sense. If it's zeros on the SDS, then it's safe to spray. I mean, if you can spray water and at zeros, it's the same. Anything you get in your 2s and 3s, definitely 4s. Obviously, you wouldn't even try it. I know there are some products out there that are 1s that are I think safe enough, but I don't make that call because I get so many calls on that question. And I say, listen, if you're using hypochlorous in any fashion, you're moving in the right direction. And we don't talk about any of our competitors any other way that it's like, listen, you're the sustainable aspects, you're moving in the right direction. In 10 years, this is going to be the norm, and just grasp it early. But if you're going to spray anything and you're not sure, just please look at your SDS. I mean, that's why they make those safety data sheets, and that's why you have those. You want to make darn sure. So.
Well, and I really liked your example, because I had asked you, well, like, what's an example of something that might have, not zeros on the SDS? And you're like, you just got to read it, because 4, maybe 5 years ago, Vital Oxide did not have zeros. Now, if you buy Vital Oxide, you're going to see all the zeros.
That's correct.
And I love that example, because I think that a lot of times people think, if I got it once, that's it. I never have to check it out again. It's going to be the same forever and ever and ever. And that's not the way it works. So. Well,
I think Vital Oxide was reformulated because of the Clorox 360, because they were sub-regging for Clorox, and it was a good move, and it's a good product. It's anything that's moving in that direction is the right direction. My bet would be, if anything's evolving, it would be evolving more closer to zeros than the other way. But you would be crazy not to check it. I mean, look, you're spraying this, and when you do electrostatic, it's at a droplet size that it's going to get in your nose. It could get, you could inhale it. You want to make sure. I mean, and don't stand right in front of it unless you're trying to demonstrate that it's safe. I wouldn't stand in front of it and breathe it in on purpose. But it's just common sense. But yeah, SDS is the golden rule.
But I go to ISSA every year, and I see people drinking it and spraying it in their eyes. And I mean, I've never tried that myself, but these people keep coming back year after year. So I guess.
You know what? You might have come to my booth actually at ISS this year.
Probably.
Well,
you're done.
I'm somewhat immune to it. I mean, honestly, I spray it on my toothbrush. I mean, the dirtiest thing in your house, believe it or not, is your dish rag and your toothbrush. So no, I sprayed on my toothbrush. I had strep throat one time. I gargled with it and didn't take any. I mean, there's crazy stories I can tell you, because I've been around it for 11 years. I mean, I have a generator actually in my house right back here in my laundry room. That's all I've been using for many years. But it is safe, and I don't encourage anybody to ingest it or spray it in their face. But truth is, I mean, it's in your body already. Our bodies make hypochlorous acid. It's the only way we can fight infection. There is no other way in our body. So the reason we need salt in our diet and salt in everything is not so we can sweat. When we sweat, we need to replenish the salt. The salt is so we can actually make hypochlorous acid, and that's how the human body actually fights infection. It's been around since man has been around. So we didn't create the actual element. It's a natural element we created outside the human body. And if you want a really, really boring chemistry lesson, I can tell you exactly how it works. It's not a magic trick. Would you like me to explain it real quick?
I kind of do want you to. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, so let's go back to chemistry class. So okay. We have NaCl as sodium. All molecular bonds have a positive and a negative, right? Okay. So NaCl is salt, H2O is water, and that has a molecular bond. So what we do an electrolytic process called EcoWater.
Called what?
It was called EcoWater, but all the folks in California working, they call it EcoWater. Okay. And both would be correct semantically, because EcoWater means friendly, EcoWater means chemical activation. So what we do is we take pure salt brine through an electrolytic cell, and then on the negative side we pull the positives off, and then on the positive side we pull the negatives off. So the Cl comes off, the HO comes off, and makes HLCO. So on the left tank on our machines, it's the left tank. The left tank is where the HOCl goes. When you take those molecules apart, you've got an Na and an OH left. You have the Na from the sodium and OH from the water. I mean, from the water.
From the water.
Oxygen and hydrogen, actually, yes, it came from the water. And then it makes NaOH, which is sodium hydroxide, which is the best degreaser on the planet. And one is the byproduct of the other, which is sometimes when I sit down and I try to process that, I'm like, wow, that's just crazy, because you're taking salt water and making two very useful things. And it's like, so I break these two things up. When they come back together, they make useful products. So sodium hydroxide, if you've heard of Zero Res, and I'm sure people in the cleaning business have heard of them, they're a large carpet cleaning company. That's all they use, and it's very effective. So if you do have on-site generation hypochlorous acid, you're also making NaOH. Best carpet cleaning, food surface grease cleaning on the planet, equally as friendly and safe. About 11 pH, very effective. And then we dilute that down to multi-purpose cleaner, which is one of the best multi-purpose cleaners on the planet. So as folks move into on-site generation for HOCl, they're getting this too. It's definitely a bonus.
You know, we've talked with Robin Murphy before, and her husband, she works with her husband, Gary, and they've got, their whole business is built around this on-site generation. And between the high pH degreaser and the hypochlorous acid, that's primarily all they use to clean homes with. They also use an abrasive cleaner, Barkeeper's Friend, for like some tough things in bathrooms and so forth. But that and mechanical action, scrubbies and so forth, those are the only cleaning agents that they use. And then they have a really large, successful business up in Westchester County, and they promote the idea as a benefit to their employees in terms of keeping them safe.
Yeah.
And the probably most unappreciated parts of what this whole initiative is about is, from a cleaning technician standpoint, you know, if I'm a consumer and I occasionally expose myself to cleaning products, so what? But if I'm using them 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's a whole nother level of risk. And these products,
I mean, it's coming up. I mean, if you Google nurses suing hospitals for, I mean, it's a known thing. I mean, it's I'm not going to bash anybody, but I'm just telling you, it's a known thing as far as the safety behind it. But you know, I know Robin and Gary both are great folks. We work with them, and you know, when I met her, she gets it. You know, when I meet people that actually understand hypochlorous acid and they understand it, it's easy for me, because people that are into it seem to be very passionate about it too. It seems to go hand in hand with people that use hypochlorous acid. There's a passion around it, because I mean, I'll tell you a specific story. It was with a previous company I worked for, but we did one of our first hospital installs in North Carolina, and this hospital only uses those two products. Period. They don't use anything else in a hospital. Think about that. If the thing's going in a hospital, that's all they use is the two products that come out of that machine. And I was walking around with some technology that I was involved with, and I was walking around just getting some feedback from the team, just understanding how they felt about some of the technology they were using, and it was revealed later that I was a creator of the system. And this lady started crying, I mean, openly crying, and I was like, this is. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she said, and I quote, she said, since we switched to your product, she said, my asthma has gone into remission. She said, I was on an inhaler for 20 years. He said, I went to my pulmonary doctor, and he said, what have you done? And she said, nothing. The only thing that changed is what I clean with. And that's a true story. And I got that much more, this was years ago, but I got so much more fired up about it after that, because I was at a large hospital in Cleveland, and it's got clinic in the name. I won't tell you who it is, but basically I'm in there with their infection prevention person. We're talking about this, and this person said, you know, when I go by the room and I smell that smell, she goes, I think two things. One is, thank God I know it's clean. And number two, thank God I didn't have to do it. And I'm like, do you know how telling that is? I mean, it is. And for folks that watch this and other things, I mean, if you're using products on a daily basis, you're being exposed to them. I mean, I guess a lot of people glove up these days and might even wear respirators, but a lot of things that are being used, you probably should. And it's just, you know, my own self. I mean, I would spray all kinds of stuff on anything, didn't think twice about it. I mean, my whole life, until I started to understand the difference. So the quantum leap for me was understanding well, how can this thing that's safe be as effective or more effective than something that's very harmful? And then just understanding the chemistry, it makes total sense. In fact, I'm working with a school in California. The principal, she's a doctor actually, and she's PhD. And she called me out of the blue, found us on the internet, and she said, "Can I ask you some questions?" Because she knows a Maid Brigade person in LA, and this is a Catholic school in Los Angeles. So she found out us that way, and so we're talking, and I started explaining it to her, and she goes, "Yeah, I get that." And this is what she said. She said, "Well, I have a PhD in chemistry and biology." She goes, "This makes total sense to me." She goes, "I don't know why I never figured it out before." I mean, because when you look at the chemistry behind it, you go, "Well, duh, that's obvious. If it's HOCl that's doing the killing, then why don't we just make that directly into HOCl? Why do we need to go through hypochlorite, which is very toxic?" And then you connect the dots. And it was kind of a funny conversation because she said, "I totally get it." She said, "It makes total sense." And she said, "Everything you just said is true." I said, "Well, lie to you. You know, that's not the point."
You're like, I know.
There's a whole, I mean, just to be real though, there's a whole industry, a ton of money behind companies making things and working through distributors, selling stuff that's designed to go down the drain and, you know, flush down the toilet and into trash. And it's kind of the opposite direction from being environmentally, you know, responsible and green, but that's where the money is. And
I get that.
A lot of the paradigm and a lot of the ways that we've been taught to clean and the way that large manufacturers are showing us this is the stuff that works and the distributors that we work with. And I'm not saying it's evil. I'm just saying that's how they make money, you know, and this kind of disintermediates a lot of that. Those guys don't make money off of on-site generated cleaning agent.
I mean, I've got, go ahead, Liz. I got a good story to tell you on that. What were you going to say, Liz?
Well, the thing that we haven't really addressed yet, and you know what's like 246 or 546 over there is, you know, how does like a little cleaning company, how do they get it? My understanding is that to generate it on site, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. So, I mean, does that make sense for a little cleaning company? Is there something else we should be doing? How does this play out with people like us?
Yeah, and Tom, hopefully you don't mind me saying you're getting ready to put a unit in down there. I think a smart way to do it, if you're a smaller user of product, just buy ready to use product. And if somebody wants to reach out to me, I'll give them you know, you don't have to buy my product. I mean, you can buy ready to use. And if you're not using a lot of product, I recommend just buying ready to use. Just buy as much as you need when you need it and just reorder. But really the on-site generation isn't that terribly much. I mean, anywhere from the Genion unit up to some of the bigger ones. I mean, when you look at this as an investment in the business, also, I think it's a better opportunity to sell your services, to maybe expand your business a bit, because you're using something that's very effective and it's not toxic and you use it more often. So you generate it. What you could potentially do is have one machine and then outfit, you know, many people with it. So you'd fill up your bottles and go use it. So you've got a depot, you go and you get it. There's also, for our example, I think there's some other ones, we have a monthly option as well. We pay a monthly fee, and then you just generate all you can use.
So you like rent a machine?
Yeah, well, it's a service contract. It's not a rent. We just basically
It's like a race.
Yeah, and then every year, when it's up, we give you new equipment. It's pretty easy.
So like, what are we talking about money wise?
They're anywhere. I don't know where they landed, because the prices have definitely changed, especially on electrostatic since COVID. They've gone through the roof. But these generators, I want to say, start probably at 6, and probably go up to probably 14 or 15 is the range. You know, we have an offering that's somewhere in the middle in there. But at the end of the day, just make sure that you understand the product you're buying, and that you understand, you know, the registrations and the testing behind it. But it's not. You'd be surprised. We have a lot of just single operator Maid Brigades that just make sense. And then, like I said, for Tom's example, I think they're gonna do multiples. We've got a company down in Florida that's doing Airbnbs, and they're using one machine, and they're using the product all over the place. Even some people, like they're leaving disinfectant behind for their clients. And I think Robin, you mentioned Robin up at Maid Brigade in New York. She's done a fantastic job. She's been on the news. She's had media events all over the place, because she's really, I mean, she was helping out the local police and fire departments because she was making it. She said, here, go be safe. So that's another thing you can do too, is you can actually build it in the community effort. You can leave it behind. So it's part of your service. You say, not only do we come in and clean, I'm going to leave you a really good disinfectant behind to use. So it's at your discretion because you have all you want. If you have water and lights, you can make it. You can make 15 gallons an hour. So I think over time it would make sense, but it's not going to make sense for everybody. I get that. And shop around, because there's a lot of ready-to-use product out there, and it's as long as it's 500 parts per million or 250, whatever range you're looking at. As long as it's vetted out and it's labeled correctly, I just make sure it's registered. Other than that, you're moving the right direction.
If you're working, if you have a really small company, if you're a solo, or if you've just got, a few employees and or just cleaning a few homes a day, obviously investing in a large split stream unit that we've been talking about earlier is a hard ROI to get to. But there are, if you want to do on-site generation, you mentioned the company Genion. It's a little different technology. They call it a blended stream as opposed to a split stream. But basically, you wind up with HOCl, or you can also make the high alkaline degreaser as well. And
that's solid technology. Been around a lot of years, and it's good technology, no question. There's another one, Aquiox makes a countertop unit. I actually know Michelle. He's a really smart guy.
You're making it like a quart at a time, and that equipment is like a few $100. I mean, it's
and there's also one on Amazon that we've noticed, and we keep our eye on these things. It's called Force of Nature, and it's a smaller unit. You make it like ready to use, like in a bottle, for very small production. I typically want to vet it out myself, and I think we probably will look at it just because we're interested in the space. But I know there is a company called Force of Nature that makes it. And like I said, the Genion does make it's a brew pot that it does a great job. I mean, it's good hypochlorous.
So you can buy hypochlorous at Costco?
I think she's talking about Microban.
Oh, Microban.
Yeah, Microban is what that does is you leave it and it's supposed to continue to kill after.
Afterwards, yeah. Okay.
So I would recommend cleaning with a neutral pH before you apply that. We're working with a company called Act Global out of Denmark that's doing a lot of hotels, and they actually have a bioprotection barrier they're putting on surfaces in hotels. That's how we got the California hotels. And what they're saying is, if you're going to use that kind of product, make sure you're using a neutral pH on your disinfectant, because it won't deactivate it. It'll stay longer. So.
Okay.
So. I think that we answered Heather's question here.
I think so. How can we purchase a machine to make it? So I don't think that we actually said how. We told her which types of some names of different machines, but how would they contact you, Marty, if they wanted to purchase through Annihilare? Is that a thing, or lease it, or?
Absolutely. Like I said, when Tom asked me to be on, this for me was not a commercial or a sales thing at all. We're passionate about it. We believe in it. We know it's going to be the new next thing that's going to be done. We certainly would be more than happy to talk to her. You can go to annihilare.com. But you can Google search HOCl on-site generation and find some good. There's a lot of good companies in this space. In fact, a good, healthy hypochlorous acid company is good. Industry is good for everyone. And we're hoping for that. So, but certainly.
And then I have an odd question, kind of off the wall question. I like your name, Annihilare. But where did it come from? I mean, I get the annihilate piece, but how about the error part on the end with the weird spelling?
So it's funny. So we own a company in Houston that does managed services, and we came out of this. This came out of that in a weird kind of way. But one of the partners at the time came up with the name. And it's pretty brilliant, actually. Annihilare is Latin, and annihilare means to completely destroy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the word annihilate is out of the word annihilate.
Annihilare.
Yeah, so Latin annihilare means to completely destroy was Latin. So the English word for to completely destroy is annihilate. And then our EPA registered product is Annihilite, and it gets really confusing.
Yeah, I like it.
I must say, man, I should have called it like unicorn juice or something. I mean, golly.
I like Annihilare much better.
But the crazy thing is, see, we have other Annihilare products, and then they say, I want Annihilate. But no, but you want Annihilare. You want Annihilare free, Catholite. Anyway, we're having fun with it. But I can tell you, you don't forget the name. And I get a lot of calls out of the blue just saying, hey, we heard we needed to talk to Annihilare. and I'm like, well, I appreciate that. So, but yeah, we like it. It's an interesting name. The way that we try to phonetically say it is Annihilare.
Right.
The thing, Annihilare, but it's, you said Annihilare earlier. A lot of people say that. We're not offended.
Yeah, I'm sure that you have to be flexible when your name is Annihilare.
In fact, sometimes the receptionists in our corporate office, they don't say it right. It's okay. It's all right.
We'll work on it, though. We'll get that. I just wanted to get this on Smart Business Moves, though, because this science, this technology is something that you just aren't going to hear about everywhere, but it is important as cleaning professionals to at least understand the technologies out there and the benefits. And, it's the world is changing, as Marty was saying. After, COVID, things aren't going to go back to the way they were, a year from now, 2 years from now. People are going to be placing a higher value on cleaning for health for years and years to come. And this seems like this has a real fit within that model. And professional cleaning companies should, at least give it a consideration and think about, where the technology is going.
So, Tom, you completely queued yourself up, and then you dropped yourself off the cliff with the unprecedented product.
It's an unprecedented time. We're obligated to use the word unprecedented at least once every time.
And you saw him cue himself up. I was like, oh, here he goes.
There he goes. No, I wasn't even thinking about that.
But it is unprecedented times. And you said something earlier at the very beginning of this Facebook Live too, Marty, that I know a lot of people are nervous to say, but it's kind of exciting times. Because I know it's not politically correct to say it's exciting times, right? COVID-19, but things are going to be better coming on the other side of this. Things are getting safer, and it is going to be better.
I agree. And people ask me all the time, it must be really great. And here's the thing: it's like we're going to underpromise and overdeliver, because in this market with supply chain, I mean, it's a bit of a frenzy. Obviously. One thing that really positively came out of this year too was this was apparently was a really bad flu year. And flu kills people every year. I mean, flu, you look at flu deaths, they're much more than even this. But the point is, I think because people are more conscious about cleaning, that the flu has been really knocked down because of the preventive measures. So clearly it worked. Second thing is being able to clean. What do you do in a movie theater? What do you do in a school bus? We talked about what do you do in a classroom? What do you do on an airplane? It is going to be different because of the awareness. I mean, these type things come and go, and another one will come. We had CRE in 2013 down in Florida, horribly. So this has more, I think, worldwide exposure. I think because it is a respiratory thing, and having hospital space was such a big thing, we almost could not get in a bad spot. But it is. It's exciting all at the same time. It's trying to deal with it, because we've got nursing homes that can't get bleach wipes. We get frantic calls, and we're putting out as many fires as we can. But it's going to take a village to fix this problem. You can count on that.
Yeah, like in South America, I understand the flu is pretty much a non-event this year, and that's very unusual because they're trying to be more responsible with COVID. Mm-hmm. So that's the upside. Long run is we have the opportunity to be healthier. Year in, year out, based on the things that we're learning and figuring out, and the new habits that hopefully we're creating and will continue to, make long-term habits.
Absolutely. And like I said, I mean, in my opinion, and there's a lot of pop-up businesses going on right now, and it seems like I talk to every one of them for some reason. But you know, people are really, I'm not behind profiteering off of a short-term thing, try to make a buck. That's not really what this is about. But your audience here this is something that they do for a living, and they take pride in it, and they do it well. And they just need to fold this into their business philosophy, because it's going to make their business stronger and more desirable. If I can tell you, the people that we use, they use hypochlorous acid. I know a little more about it, but if I was selling this solution, I think it's a great opportunity to say, listen, you know, we got this covered. We can help you out. We're going to keep you safer. We're going to bring you a way to disinfect more effectively. I hate to say that, but you almost have to just say it. And it's going to be safe. It's going to be safe for your pets or kids. And I would look for a cleaning service that was using that. Mm-hmm. I mean, and when people find out about it, they're going to be. I mean, my prediction is, and I'll come back on in 10 years. We'll put it in the calendar. But in 10 years, you're going to buy a unit at Home Depot or Lowe's that makes hypochlorous acid. Whirlpool will get into it. One of these appliance companies will get into it, because the science is not difficult. If you could put something next to your ice machine or next to your washing machine that you can make hypochlorous acid, why wouldn't you? And when people say I'm using bleach, I say, why? Why are you using that? And it's true. And people hate me for saying it, but I have to say it. So
we don't hate you, Marty. We don't hate you for saying it.
We very much appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today and share the science behind on-site generation, specifically hypochlorous acid, and all the benefits associated with it. And you know, speaking for myself, I'm very much looking forward to more people becoming aware of this technology, because it makes all the sense in the world. And just as a society, it's just the right thing for, you know, it needs to be more pervasive. It needs to be more common than it is.
Absolutely. And we are Green Seal certified in GS 37 and GS 53, which to a lot of people, that means something. So and that's greenseal.org. They're out of Washington, D.C. It's not part of us. They're a verification house. But I would be looking for products on that. I'd be looking for products on the Green Seal list to use, especially during COVID.
And the common paradigm is that, but just by the fact it's a disinfectant, it can't be Green Seal. That's not true.
Well, no. Well, that's exactly right. You can't be considered green because if you're killing germs, you're not green. But what they do is they go out and say, listen, we're going to verify products that are green, that we approve, which is why it's a third party. But yes, I mean, it seems silly, but that's a fact. If you kill germs, you're not considered green by nature. And I'll tell you what's a great germ killer in your house is a lemon. And I guarantee you it's organic, and it would be Green Seal certified. So I mean, you can cook raw fish with lemon juice. It's called ceviche. So yes, there are things that kill that are green. So,
well, real quickly, if you haven't subscribed to Cleaning Business Today, it's really easy. Just go to cleaningbusinesstoday.com, email, first name, last name. I'll drop the link to our resources, and I'm going to get from Marty some of the videos that he talked about. We're going to put those on our resource page. Marty's website, if you want to know more about Annihilare. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Got to brush up on my Latin. Put that website there as well.
Don't bother.
That's it for today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern, with Kurt Kempton. Marty, thanks so much again.
Absolutely.
That was great, Marty.
Finally, nice to meet you, Liz, because I've heard your name and I've been on emails. I've never met you. Nice to meet you, and Tom. Good to see you.
Me too.
And I thank your audience for your time today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Marty.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Talk to y'all tomorrow.